Welcome to the Void of Thought. I'm Reggie Dixon, also known as Razir, and I'm here to help you become the best version of yourself while also helping to improve the quality of your life so that you can live the life that you came here to live. You ready? Let's get into it. So, someone who may be new to spirituality or just self-mastery in general may be wondering what shadow work actually is. And so, the essence of shadow work is basically acknowledging the aspects of yourself that you're either afraid of or that you may not even know are there within yourself. There are aspects of yourself that may cause harm to yourself, may cause harm to others, and those aspects, you may not like them, you may not be familiar with them, they may be afraid, or you may be afraid of them. And so shadow work is basically acknowledging those aspects of yourself, accepting them, and working with them so that you can learn from them and give them the proper love that they need so that they can be properly integrated into you and be of benefit, be healthy to you, be beneficial to you and others around you instead of hurting you and others around you. So shadow work isn't like getting rid of your shadow, it's more so shining the light on the aspects of yourself that are considered your shadow so that they can have the love and the care and the acceptance that they need in order to grow into healthy and functional aspects of yourself, rather than having them be dysfunctional and disharmonious aspects of yourself. So shadow work is taking those aspects of yourself, healing them, and by way of healing them, you're healing yourself as a whole. And by healing yourself as a whole, you're allowing yourself to be more of a harmonious, complete, full being. So within your heart, your soul, and your spirit, all aspects of yourself, the more in harmony, the more harmonious and flowing with one another, flowing together as one. So that's what shadow work is. And shadow work often, at least from my perspective, it gets a bad rep because people proclaim it to be hard and difficult and, you know, like this strenuous thing, this thing that may cause a lot of fear within them. And yeah, that may be the case. But it doesn't always have to be like that, because when you get used to doing shadow work, when it becomes a natural part of your spiritual practice, then it just becomes another tool that you use to improve yourself, to master yourself. And that's what it's become for me. So how I do shadow work for myself is kind of like what I mentioned in the last video. I basically have mastered the system of acknowledging whatever it is that is considered to be my shadow, acknowledging it, accepting it, forgiving myself for it, and then learning the lessons from it, aka understanding it and understanding it so that I can then integrate those aspects into myself in a healthy and harmonious fashion. So I'm gonna say that again. Acknowledgement, acceptance, forgiveness, learning, understanding, and integrating. Those 5 steps, master them. And I'm here to help you master them as well, but also take it to a higher level by practicing shadow work in your dreams. So before we get into how to actually do it in your dreams, let's talk about how it's done during waking life versus in dreams. And so in waking life, shadow work is done, at least from my perspective, is done during meditation. It's done during times of self-reflection, where you have time to yourself to sit and reflect and just sit with yourself and be with yourself and reflect on things that you've done in the past, things that people have done to you in the past that cause you to act in certain ways or to feel certain ways. Because, you know, one very important thing that I want to say is the shadow aspects of ourselves, we're not just born with them unless we haven't done your work in the past lives to heal those shadow aspects of ourselves and our soul. But in this life, parts of us that become shadow aspects of ourselves in this life, they're usually created because of some sort of emotional suppression, some sort of trauma response that we have suppressed in some form of aspect in us. And when we suppress those types of emotions, they're bound to grow bigger and bigger. And because emotions are energy in motion, so it's fluid energy. Energy has to move. It has to keep moving in order to live. If it becomes stagnant, then that becomes toxic for your entire body. And I talk about this in my book a little bit, Living Proof. Now, I use the metaphor of a river, a flowing river. If a river is flowing, it usually means that it's healthy. If, the water is more clear because it's flowing. It doesn't have time, the things that get into the river, they don't have time to just settle and rot and mold and become stagnant and then pollute the rest of the water. That doesn't happen in a flowing river. And the river represents energy, the flow of energy within ourselves, within our bodies, within our spirits. But if the flow of energy or the flow of water, there is no flow, if it's stagnant, then that's when things get into it. That's when, stuff falls into the water. Say something dead falls into the water, or just, anything like a rotten piece of fruit falls into the water. If that sits there, becomes stagnant, it's gonna just rot and mold, bring in all types of stuff, all types of maggots, diseases, and everything. And then it's just gonna pollute the water, so that water is no longer drinkable, it's no longer usable. It has to be treated first, it has to be healed first, before it's able to be used and utilized again. So if we keep our energy flowing in a state of consistent and constant flow, then that's usually when we're at our healthiest. That's why, when we move our bodies, we stretch, we work out, do yoga, we feel our best, right? But when we're just sitting stagnant for hours or days on end, that's when we usually start feeling bad. And it's the same exact thing with our energy. And so going back to trauma, going back to shadow work, if we try to suppress that energy, that means that we're trying to keep it locked away and just buried it down somewhere. But that energy needs to grow, it needs to flow, it needs to actually be expressed in order to be healed. So if we try to ignore the healing and just suppress it so that we don't have to deal with it, it's just going to show up in multiple different ways for ourselves. And that's when the shadow aspects actually become the shadow aspects. It's because, say for example, someone was like in a car accident. They didn't die or anything, no one else was hurt. It was just a car accident that injured them. And say that every time they get in a car from now on, they have just this intense fear of they're gonna get in another accident. And if they try to just suppress that fear, suppress it, and not really acknowledge it, not really give it the love and the healing that it needs, then that fear is just going to keep growing and growing and growing until eventually that person may not even be able to drive anymore, just because of the intense fear that they feel every time that they get near their car. And that's an aspect, or that's a example of someone ignoring their trauma. And ignoring the trauma leads to that shadow work that needs to be done. Because if you don't do the shadow work, it's just going to keep getting worse and worse and worse. And so that person, say they go years down the line, now different aspects of their life are affected because they didn't heal that trauma. Say they lost their job because they didn't want to go to work because they didn't want to get in the car. Maybe they did want to go to work, but they're too afraid to actually get in the car. They're too afraid to get into a moving vehicle so that they can actually get to work and be productive. But now that person lost their job. Now they have to depend on someone else to help them deal with, their own life. So now they lost a lot of their independency. So now they're dependent on someone else. Now they have to ask to go a certain place or to have certain things brought to them and stuff like that. Now this is just an example of how something that is traumatic for us in the past can not predict, can affect the rest of our future if we don't deal with it, if we don't deal with the trauma, if we don't do the shadow work in order to heal and integrate that part of ourselves back into a harmonious version of ourselves. So getting back to how shadow work is usually done, it's usually done in a meditative state and or self-reflective state. So usually when I do shadow work in a waking state, then I'm usually meditating and I'm just thinking back. I go into myself. I feel what it is that I'm feeling. Whatever energy that's coming up within me, whatever emotions are coming up within me, I just sit there and I feel it. I feel into it. And then I've learned how to trace it back to the source within myself. Trace it back to what the inception was of that emotion that was brought up within me. Because emotions, they're energy and motion, but they're also guides. Our emotions lead us to different aspects of ourselves, different parts of ourselves, to where the emotion is stemming from. I'm not talking about, I mean, they do correlate to physical parts of our bodies, but I'm more talking about the soul and the spirit, our emotional bodies. Where is the emotion coming from within us? Why is it there? Now, understanding that, asking those questions leads to understanding the answer to those questions. It leads us to understand the source of that emotion, the source of that trauma, the source of that shadow aspect of ourself. So when I sit with myself, I sit with my emotions and I reflect. I'm asking my emotions where, like stuff like, why are you here? Where did you come from? What is your inception? What caused you to be birthed within me? What was your trigger? Stuff like that. I just ask myself questions and I sit and I wait and I listen for the answer. And as I'm sitting and I'm waiting and I'm listening, I get guided. And I usually see visuals, and these visuals lead me back to certain memories that I've had in the past that were the very moments of when it was that the trauma happened, when it was that I started to feel the way that I felt, and how I responded to the trauma, how I reacted to the trauma, and why. So understanding why is the most crucial thing, because when you understand why, you're able to see it in like 20/20 vision. You're able to see exactly what it is that happened and why it happened, and understand how and why it affected you. And then when you understand how and why it affected you, then you can learn how to overcome that, how to integrate that, how to heal from that. Those answers will naturally arise within you as you go back and you journey back in a state of love and a state of forgiveness for yourself. And then doing shadow work in dreams. So that's when I do shadow work in waking life. And now when I do shadow work in dreams, it's pretty much the same thing, except it's more symbolic and it goes deeper into the subconscious of my mind. Because when you dream, most of the time when we dream, it's our subconscious mind creating that entire environment around us. Yes, we're somewhere in the astrals, but in the fourth dimension, aka the astral realm, the dream world, we have so much control over our immediate environment. So that, say that you're in like a house or something, and the house could be empty, but it's your subconscious mind that fills in, that actually manifests things that you're seeing in the house. So I say like it's a TV playing a certain TV show or a certain movie that you like. That's your subconscious mind creating that. And if you're lucid, you'll be aware of that. But if you're not lucid, it's just something that's in the environment. It's just something that you're experiencing, and you don't really understand maybe why you're experiencing it. You just know that, hey, I like this movie or I like this TV show, but you don't really think anything more deeply about it. But when you're lucid, that's when you can actually observe and analyze and see why things are manifested in certain ways and in certain aspects. So like, for example, have you ever had, I'm sure most of us had, a dream or multiple dreams where you're just being chased by something. You don't know what it is, or maybe it's a big giant monster, or maybe it's a human, maybe it's someone with a weapon. Whatever it is, you're being chased by it, and all you know is that you're afraid, you're in fear, fight or flight. A lot of us run, some of us fight, some of us, switch off. But a lot of us, we run from those types of things in our dreams because it's something that we're afraid of, and it's something that we're running from within ourselves. Because again, in most dreams, we manifest whatever it is that we're experiencing in the dream. And if we manifest something that's scary to us, that we're afraid of, and that we're running from, that tells me that that's an aspect of yourself, that's an aspect of myself that I'm afraid of, that I'm trying to run from, that I may be trying to hide and get away from, aka shadow aspect of myself, shadow aspect of yourself. And so if that's the case, then all we have to do is turn around, face whatever it is. Because if you've done that before, you know that whatever it is that's chasing you, usually they'll just stop and just stare at you right in your face because you're not afraid of them anymore. The whole dream world responds to you. Like, I love the example that the TV show, The Legend of Korra, that how they represented it. Now, I didn't really like that show too much, but I really love how they portrayed the spirit world, because how they portrayed the spirit world is so spot on, so incredibly spot on. Because I remember when she first got into the spirit world, she was her younger self. She was a little kid. She was a younger version of herself. And when she saw something that was a little bit scary, I forgot what happened, but she started crying. And then everything went from being happy and bright and sunlit and everything to a dark storm, almost raining. Everything started, like all the spirits around her started shifting into this more demonic and evil looking form. And that's all because they were responding to her emotions that she was giving off. And when she, got over that, when I believe it was Uncle Iroh who was in there, who helped her overcome that sadness or that fear that she was experiencing, she got back into a state of love and happiness and gratitude. That's when everything, all the clouds went away, the spirits around her shifted back from their demonic forms into their more happy-go-lucky form. And the entire environment shifted from bad or negative, whatever you want to call it, darkness, to good, to something that's pleasant, that's beautiful, that's vibrant, that's full of life. And that's exactly what we do in our dreams. Every single night that we dream. There's times where we go into other environments that we're not in control of. And I believe that's because those environments are controlled by some other entity. But when we go into our own environment in the dream world, we're in complete control, or at least mostly in complete control. So doing shadow work in our dreams, all it requires us is to be lucid, be conscious of the fact that we're dreaming, be able to observe what is going on, observe the patterns that's going on in our dreams. Because those patterns, those are the subconscious patterns that are running 24/7 for us, that create our entire physical reality as well. So when we're in the dreams, all it's doing is it's magnifying everything that's going on in our subconscious mind already, or certain aspects of our subconscious mind that's going on. So when you have that monster that's chasing you, or you're in that situation where people are attacking you with weapons and stuff like that, then all you have to do is just realize that you're dreaming, be conscious that you're dreaming, be lucid in your dream, and start observing, see what's going on. Because I've had plenty of dreams in the past where, say I'm running from someone, or I'll use this example. There's times where I've been in firefights, like gunfights, and in my dreams. And the people are shooting at me, like they're hitting the cover that I'm ducking and dodging behind. And the bullets, I'm hearing the bullets, and then I go out and bullets are coming at me. So I pop out from cover to see what's going on. I pop out from cover and I'm afraid, say I'm not lucid in this moment. I'm afraid that I'm about to get shot, but the bullets, they don't ever hit me. And even the few times that I was hit by bullets in dreams, it hurt for a split second, but then the bullet wound, it just went away. The pain just went away. And so in those moments are usually the ones that allow me to wake up and be lucid in my dreams and realize that, oh, I'm dreaming, this ain't real. And then I start observing what's going on. And then I start just either walking, to confront and face whatever is challenging me. And usually the entire dream will just come to a pause. All the chaos and the action that was just happening, they'll just pause, just stop, and a literal ceasefire. And so in those moments, you have a choice to make of what it is that you would like to do. Would you like to act out emotionally and react to what has been going on and take revenge for all the fear and everything that's been caused? Or would you rather subdue that and then find a peaceful way to go about it, and observe and see why it is that that was even happening in the first place. Because remember, you're dealing with different aspects of yourself. You're dealing with an aspect of yourself when you're doing shadow work in your dreams like this. And so keeping in mind that whatever it is that you're dealing with is an aspect of you, whatever you do to that aspect in the dream, you're still doing to yourself on a soul level, on a spiritual level. And so if you take revenge on that, then you're just taking revenge on the aspect of yourself. You're still waging war within yourself. And that's still going to be, that's still going to cause some type of internal turmoil for you, rather than having the peaceful and harmonious solution of understanding through observation, through learning, through understanding. That's when you really allow yourself to integrate whatever it is that you're learning in that moment within the dream about that aspect of yourself. So that then when you wake up, next thing you do after that is write down the dream. Write down everything you can remember. It's like you're taking that information that you learned from the dream and you're taking it back into this physical realm so that you can take it from the subconscious to the conscious mind. So that when you look back and you read back on your dream and you're meditating on it and you're doing self-reflection with that dream, then you're able to see consciously what patterns were playing out within yourself. Because remember, these subconscious patterns are always playing out. So when you take that from the dream world to this waking reality, make it conscious, take it from the subconscious, deep below, think of like the deep waters, take it up out of the waters to the conscious mind, to the air element, then you're able to see, oh, I did this because of that, and this happened because of this. And you're able to connect the dots a lot more within yourself so that you can then see this is exactly why this happened, or these multiple reasons are why this culminated into this one thing within myself and created the shadow aspect. Now that I'm conscious and I'm aware of it, okay, so now all I have to do is just accept it, acknowledge it, accept it, forgive myself, forgive anyone else who was involved, and then learn from it consciously this time. Learn from it and then integrate it. So that's a way to really like almost activate like a cheat code in this matrix of doing shadow work. Because again, so much stuff, like everything is stored in our subconscious mind. Our subconscious mind takes note of everything, absolutely everything. Stuff that's going on behind me, stuff that's going on in front of me, stuff that's going on just outside of my field of view. Everything that I can feel with my aura, with my electromagnetic field, because we're always interacting with everything via our electromagnetic field. It extends out, I forgot what it is, like 65 feet or something like that. And we're constantly in contact with everything because everything has an electromagnetic field. So if we're all in contact with everything that's around us, that's information that we're taking in. Everything that they're giving off, whether it's a bottle, a marker, whiteboard, TV, whatever it is, it's always constantly giving off information. Same way that we're always giving off information. So we're always being the antenna, we're always giving and receiving. And so that's all stored in our subconscious mind. And when we are able to journey into our subconscious mind via our dreams and take note and observe the patterns that are going on within it and take those from the subconscious to the conscious and observe those patterns and learn those patterns so that we can then choose to transcend those patterns, that's a cheat code, not just for shadow work, but just spiritual growth in general. So yeah, in a nutshell, practicing shadow work within your dreams is a cheat code because you're actively observing your subconscious mind and you're able to see the patterns, you're able to face your fears, you're able to see everything that's going on in that moment in your subconscious mind and learn from it, heal from it, integrate it. And so that's another thing, healing. So I don't want you to think that just because you've done shadow work one time for one aspect means that you're healed from it. because healing isn't just a linear path. Healing is often a spiral. So we can either spiral down or we can spiral up. Up being quote unquote good, down being quote unquote bad. Usually the direction that we want to go in is up because it feels good, it's harmonious for us, it's beneficial for us. And so when we're spiraling up, we're always revisiting certain things, certain aspects within ourselves, because we're coming back to that same point, just higher. Same point, now just higher. Same point, now just higher. And so sometimes we can be triggered by things that we think that we're healed from, but that just means that the higher that we go, the deeper the healing has to be. Think of it like the roots of a tree, just like a tree in general growing. The higher that it grows, the deeper the roots need to be in order to anchor it, in order to keep it grounded and stable and secure. And so we're doing the same thing when we practice shadow work, when we're healing and when we're growing and we're expanding, when we're transcending. Because transcending doesn't mean just going up. It means going up and going out and going down, going all directions at the same time. So that's why I like ascending, but I like transcending even more, because you can ascend and transcend all at the same time. And so everything that I'm teaching you is pretty much dealing with transcendence, self-mastery included. But going back to healing, I want you to be patient with yourself. I want you to be patient with your shadow work. Don't rush through it. Just because I gave you this cheat code doesn't mean that you can just rush through everything. If someone has a whole lot of shadow work to do, it's still taking it one step at a time. You may take those steps a little bit quicker than the average person who's not doing this method, but still, patience. Patience is key, because the more patient that you are, the more you're able to learn yourself, the more you're able to observe yourself, the more you're able to understand yourself, so that you can continually, progressively move faster and faster and faster. It's kind of like working out. Just because someone gave you some, say like creatine or some type of performance enhancing substance, doesn't mean that you can just go out and lift 500 pounds immediately. No, you still have to start from where you're at. You still have to progress step by step, weight by weight, class by class, level by level. So that just means that you may be able to progress through those levels a little bit faster, but you still got to take your time. You still got to have patience and exercise that patience so that you can move forward in a healthy manner. So again, same thing that we do during our waking life when we're practicing shadow work, it's the same thing that we do in our dreams. We acknowledge, we accept, and we forgive, and then we learn, we understand, and then we integrate. And we do all of that through observation, through observing the patterns. So I pray that this was helpful. I pray that this helps anyone who watches this on their journey in some type of way, even in all ways. But if you have any questions, just leave them down below in the comments and I'll be happy to answer them. So much love, respect, and gratitude to you. Thank you.